I'm starting from an initialized patch here. I'm going to go ahead and tune each oscillator to a C2. And I'm going to bring in oscillator 2, the volume of it, up to 10. And they're both going to be sawtooth waves. I'm going to detune oscillator 2 a little bit. And I'm going to bring in some slop. Well, this is really the vintage mode knob because I'm in vintage mode. So I'm going to turn this up to 6. I'm also going to bring in some sub-octave amount. About a 4 out of 10. I find that this is a good balance for these really thick chords without getting too muddy. And I'm going to get some noise too. Bring that in at about a 6 out of 10. And let's turn down the filter cutoff. We'll make it at about a 1 out of 10 down here, and we'll start messing with the envelope amount to bring it back up so you can hear everything again. So let's turn the envelope amount to about +2 and make it velocity sensitive. And I'm also going to affect the low pass filter with polymod. So we have this filter envelope to low pass filter option here. I'm going to do that too, just so that this velocity amount only affects some of the envelope amount. I don't want it to have too much of an effect on the filter. So I'm adding this in so this happens every time, and this is variable based on velocity. Okay, and for our filter envelope, I'm going to give it a slow attack, about 5 out of 10. A long decay at about 9 out of 10. Sustain at about 5 out of 10. And release at about 7 out of 10. Release at about 7 out of 10. The reason I'm leaving the release pretty long is because I want the filter envelope to open up with the first note and then not close all the way before the second note. I kind of want it to open up and then float onto the second note and float up into the next one. Just you can hear it a little bit better with more amp release on it. So it gives it that kind of floating quality. Next, let's do the amp envelope. So I'm going to leave envelope amount at 10, and I'm going to set the attack to about 1.5 out of 10. All I'm doing is getting rid of the click that happens when you hit the note. I just don't want any click when it attacks at 0. You can end up with a click. Okay, so attack is at 1.5, just softening it up a little bit. Decay doesn't matter because I'm going to leave sustain up at 10, and I'm going to give us a short release of just 3.5. And this is so I can play relatively quickly and it still sounds clean. Next, let's add in the LFO. So I'm just modulating frequency 1 and 2, it's just vibrato. The frequency is nice and slow. It's at about a 3 out of 10. And I'm just using the mod wheel to find the right spot for it. So, yeah. That sounds pretty nice. Probably add a little bit more in. Okay, next let's add in the effects. Another reason that I can get away with such a fast release time on the amp envelope is that I'm using a ton of reverb. So let's see. In my effects section, I've got chorus and reverb. Chorus is set to 42 on wet dry, and our rate is at 7, and the depth is at 127. I like this setting. I based it off of my Juno 6 chorus, although it's a little bit different. It's not quite as much. This wet dry of only 42, it's really just a little something to put us into stereo and not much more than that. The reverb is set to 33 on the wet dry. The size is set to 255, which is the max, and the pre-delay is just 64. Next, let's add in a little bit of Aftertouch. So on Aftertouch, what I decided to do was I put the high pass filter on it, and I set the amount to just like 1.5 plus 1.5 on here. And I turned up my resonance, so cutoff on the high pass filter is 0. Resonance is up pretty high, but not quite maxed out. Got it up at about 8, and I didn't do any envelope amount. So then what you can do is you can just push and get a little bit of airtime. And that's really the patch. As the song progresses, I go through and I change some things. I definitely play with the filter envelope, and I turn the attack down to 0. And I also turn up the release of the amp envelope. And I also end up turning down the filter cutoff for the end portion. And then there's another section where I hit the sync button. That has a pretty cool effect of just kind of like going up an octave. So let's see. I'll just give us a C minor 6 here. And that's all there is to it. I hope you enjoy this patch. This is one of my favorites. Have a good one.